3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, it is another Grok Talk, January 31st, 2015, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for those of you listening to the podcast, so when you misquote us, you'll get the time and the date correct. Welcome to Grok Talk, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers here in lovely, freezing cold Concord, New Hampshire, where it is minus 21 with the wind chill, and we'll have some fun with that later. We have a room full of people, which is great. Mike couldn't join us today. He's not only stuck in New York, he can't call us, so that's unfortunate for him, but we have Scott Wilson coming on the program from the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, and around the 10 o'clock hour, he's going to talk to us about the Sandy Hook Commission Report Part 2, which is a bloody disaster for the gun rights. Susan Olsen is going to call us in about 15 minutes. Call in to us in about 15 minutes to talk about the SB 116 hearing this week on constitutional carry. And, of course, Jane Cormier's joined us to discuss some interesting things about, well, all kinds of things because you're here, but we're going to specifically talk around 9:30 about Maggie Hassan and her unusual choice of budget cuts. And, of course, Guy Comtois is with us to give us the legislative update of the week. You guys missed a day or two this week because of the storm.
Yeah, it got rearranged last week, right?
This past week.
Yep, this week.
And he's come with a visual aid.
Yes.
We have a visual aid, yes.
Yes.
So anyway,
got to have them.
Those are our guests. A lot of talk about guns and legislation, and you should listen. So let's get going.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go. So, Guy.
Yes, sir.
What's new and exciting?
Well,
at the State House.
I don't know what's new, but I mean, there are things that are exciting, especially the freshmen. They're very excited and agitated over the way things are going, the way they're being treated. This isn't high school, and they use the term freshman, but it's just a. So, for instance, you must have heard about the seating situation with the plates. Mm-hmm. Well, from what I found out this week was the woman who was moved was an O'Brien supporter, and she was sitting directly behind Flanagan, the majority leader.
Yeah, sure, got to get her out of there.
She kind of, agitated about the way things have gone down, the whole 9 yards, and he didn't want her sitting behind him. So they lied to her, first off saying it's done all the time, moving people around, which is not done. No, in fact, in 2012, Republicans sat with Republicans, Democrats with Democrats, and there was a Republican in front of me, 2 seats to the right. He passed away. So there was another election, and a Democrat won. And the Democrat was sitting right in with us. Mm-hmm. Very, very disruptive, swearing. And, in fact, he got ticked off one time, and he come out of the aisle, and he actually kept kicking Mary Linda Garcia's legs.
Oh, my.
So he'd get out, okay? And we couldn't get him moved. We could not get him moved to over with the Democrats and swap out with, somebody, a Republican closer to the Democrats, because they just don't do it. That's what they told us. Right. So now all of a sudden here's somebody who Flanagan doesn't deem to be, in his egotistical social disorder.
Very,
And so she wouldn't hand the plates in. So he told her that if you don't hand the plates in, I'm sending cops over there to arrest you and take the plates.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Okay.
I haven't heard about this. This is amazing.
And this is what I was told this week by somebody on the freshman caucus.
He's sending the stormtroopers.
So, you see that a lot when you saw it when you were up there, right? You look around and go, geez, no wonder. This is where all these little would-be dictators come from. You know what I mean? They end up here, and that pesky little thing called the Constitution is in the way.
This is a blog. We gotta get this blogged.
You know something? Yeah, we actually do need to put that.
And like I said, I was talking to somebody on the freshman caucus, and he told me how it went down behind the scenes.
Amazing.
And so another thing that happened too is that there was a bill.
That's
What
why
was
he's
your bill
here.
for? Oh, to have inspections every 2 years.
Correct. I saw that one. That one
Okay.
isn't even in the
Auto,
news.
auto
Okay.
inspection,
Auto
right?
inspection.
And he was informed, one of the sponsors was informed when he went into the speaker's office, by the way, your bill's dead on arrival. We won't
Really?
come out against it, but it's dead on arrival. So the hearing comes along for the bill, and who comes in? Flanagan. Marks down, opposes it, and writes majority office. So exactly what they said they would not do, they go and do. And so this starts going around, the freshman, you come in as a freshman, I don't care, I hope you come in as a freshman, and you think that maybe there's a possibility you can change something. You'll kind of learn after a while that those possibilities are very, very slim.
Well,
but they are there. And so now they're all hyper and ready to go. They're putting their lives on hold. This is a financial hardship for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The family takes a hit, everything. And they get in there and they're just being stymied. And a lot of, some of them talk that, resigning thing. I'm like, you can't resign. You are a sovereign, independent representative sent here by the town, district, whatever. Those are the bosses. These are referees. Referees don't get to make rules. Referees just keep things under control a little bit. It's pretty much what it is.
They do make rules, though, when we don't stand up loud enough to say you do not get to make rules. And that's what they're drunk on power. They feel that they do get to make the rules.
Right.
And
if we allow them. If you allow the referee to make the rules, you can. But freshmen get up there. Resigning is not a way to do anything, really. It is I mean, we've talked.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? I was like on my second term when Jane was on her first, and she's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm like, you're going to get past this, okay? This is just the realization that we're really in trouble, okay? We didn't really know. You can be the biggest activist going. Like, in 93, I started in on this, and until you get there, and when you're in the House, and you see the way things go, the realization that we will never change Washington starts coming in. Because if we can't change a citizen legislature and try to help mold the state into some financial sanity, you know that there's no way in hell it's happening in Washington. No way.
This is one reason why I'm grateful that you're coming in to bring some of these inside baseball to us. For a lot of people, they think things operate in an orderly way. Things are open and transparent.
Honor's involved. There's no honor.
Honor. That
there is little honor up there.
Right.
It's so sad.
Honor, loyalty, duty, a sense of responsibility, and no, it's nothing but to misquote von Clausewitz, politics is war by other means. And it happens no matter where you go. And the problem is, until you start shining big flashlights on this kind of stuff, which I'd like to think that we're part of the flashlight brigade, then it's going to stay the way it is. So we need all of you freshmen, your freshman associates, to come to us and tell us what they're thinking. For you, who's a little bit further into it, when you hear about this stuff, bring it to us. And get your friends to do the same thing.
I'm trying.
We'll embarrass them.
I'm trying. No, I mean,
because that's the only way that we on the outside can help you.
They
guys.
embarrass themselves,
but they don't care.
Yeah,
right?
They need
because
to,
there's no.
But there's thousands of activists who need to know because they will start rattling the trees and bushes, and people will start making emails and phone calls and all kinds of things. And you guys know what that's like. I mean, if you got people bugging you 24/7 because you did some asshat maneuver, I mean, whoever you are. That little bit of time that you have left just vanishes. It's gone because you're dealing with that stuff. Yeah. And that's what you need to do. You need to pressure these people. I mean, this is just dumb. We're not giving you a hard time because we disagree with you on policy. We're giving you a hard time because you're being a jerk.
Yes.
Yeah. And
that Democrat in the middle of the row is still there, right?
No. This was 2012.
2012. Okay.
He won re-election in 2012, and I don't see him around right now, so I think he lost. But yeah, okay. So the Republicans were in charge during 2012, and we went to him, and Mary Linda Garcia went to him, and I said, and I watched it. He was just,
oh my,
it just zing off real fast, right? And he's trying to get to the well real quick, and she's kind of getting up slow, because she was one seat in, and then he's like kicking and tripping and kicks her legs out of the way, wouldn't allow her to stand up. She actually got up, and she got kind of like bumped back down, shoots down in the well. I forget what he even said, and and we, and it was more than that. And we went to leadership and said, hey, we want to get him moved. And he said, no, we just don't do that.
Yeah, but see,
I would have hot seated his chair.
Oh, I would have embarrassed him. You know what out of him.
Now.
I know who he is too.
Yeah, I'm sure I do. But the irony is O'Brien. I'm sure O'Brien, right, was the speaker, right? So he takes the hit for being such a, he's a crazy right winger, right? And yet, even with a Democrat in the midst of a sea of Republicans, right? He's going to do the right thing, and that guy's got to stay there because that's the way it's got to go. That's what we need. We need people that say, this is what the law says, this is what the rules say, and you do not get to tweak just because you have some push to do so. And that's what they hate the most. I don't know about you, but that was the thing that disgusted me the most, was the ones that believed, whether it was high-ranking Senate members or high-ranking, in the House, this non-spoken thing. Flanagan has it in spades, Jasper has it in spades, that somehow they're more important, that what they believe is what really should be. And you know what? You can talk till the cows come home. They hear nothing. Yeah. They hear nothing but their own voice.
There's a lot of things, like for instance, when Bill O'Brien was Speaker, you get to park right behind the Legislative Office Building, quick little jaunt in, right? Well, his car's down at the parking garage with us. So I never really knew why. Well, Pangelakis, the Democrat from Portsmouth, real anti-gun.
She's the one that was I don't care what your constitutional rights say.
Yeah, right, yeah.
The one with the license plate readers.
I think that was
she
that.
Could have been. It's tough to keep track, but
but
whatever. He gives her his Speaker's parking spot. Okay, and he parks down with us to walk up.
Right.
And within days, she's taking shots at him on something else. It's like there's
no grace.
You can't, and it's tough to tell the public. It's that well, why can't you guys get along and this and that? It's like, well, you can try to get along, but how long? How many times do you get spanked before you finally say, all right, this is the way you want to do it?
Right.
I mean, I did try, but and there's a lot of good Democrats. I mean, their ideology's wrong, but they have some honor to them.
Right.
They're polite.
That's true.
And, a lot of times it all depends on what part of the state they're from. There are different parts of the state on the seacoast that you're not going to, they just think you are less than, shine my shoes, boy, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then you have some good quality people, that you can find common ground, usually on a non-constitutional type issue, and you can work on it.
And there are those Democrats that really do believe that they don't want the power for themselves. They really do believe that the government can solve a certain issue. They really believe that.
Right.
And those Democrats, you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference between the one that says, get out of the way, just like you said, and the one that really in their heart, big heart thinking, I don't know what it is, but believes that that's the way you can help. And those you can discuss things with and make a headway, I think.
And there's no shit. I mean, time and time again, I don't have a problem with Democrats. I don't. I have no arguments with Democrats. I can't think of an argument I had with a Democrat out there. Okay?
You're full of it.
No.
How about Steve Shurtleff?
I haven't had an argument with them.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, but this, well, he's part of that. But what I mean is that it's like this is where they're coming from. Everybody pretty much knows this is where they're coming from.
And they
don't
there.
have a problem telling you this is where they're coming from. So you can't argue with that.
An honest Democrat.
It's the rhino situation. It's the Republican Party where my problems lie. They are, unfortunately, the people back at home, and my parents used to do this. If it had an R next to it, well, we'll vote for it. I mean, you could get away with that in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
You could get, in the 80s, really, if you got a bad Republican in the 80s is on the HRA today, and but you can't do that anymore because there is obviously, you can go through the roster and look, and you can tell that there's no way this person would get elected as a Republican.
Right.
I mean, a Democrat. So that's why he's a Republican. There is no doubt, and I'm sure if you went back to the town and you found out the registered voters, it would be true. Yeah. So the voters are not paying attention because they still have this feeling that we're more or less a joke. What is 400 of us and we don't get paid, and we're a citizen legislature, and the jokes around, who hasn't been a state rep in New Hampshire, and they kind of they just kind of really don't take you seriously. They take the governor seriously, maybe the Senate, and you try to explain to them, it's like, yeah, I'm getting $100 a year, and the dude in New York's probably getting $90,000 a year, but we both introduce legislation that can hurt you or help you, and we both help make law. Forget about the pay. Forget about the fact there's 400 of us. The fact of the matter is these people can hurt you, and they do. Look at the look at the downshifting. Why are people not enraged over the fact that, okay, the governor and some of these agencies overspent, just spent everything.
We're going to talk about that at 9:30.
Okay, and then all of a sudden now, without legislative approval, they shove everything down to the counties. So it's like, well, look at what we're doing. We're helping balance the budget, and we're getting ourselves out of an economic crisis.
You pick up the tab, balance budget.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
now here down to the counties where Belknap's got to come up on 180 to 200,000.
All right, we can cover that at 9:30. I got to get off the air here for a minute, so Skip can call Susan so we can bring her in for the next segment. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at gerardatlarge.com.
Rock Talk.
Oh, I don't know why, but I've always loved the idea of summer and sun and all things hot.
Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat.
Nope. But sometimes I like to close my eyes and imagine what it'd be like when summer does come.
We are imagining what it would be like when summer does come.
I'm just glad that my battery started this morning in the car.
Yeah. How are things up on the mountain anyway?
Cold. 2.
All right.
2 degrees.
We're going to stop talking about us and start talking to Susan Olsen, who has joined us. Good morning.
Good morning. We had such cold weather here the other day that Diesel in the tractor gelled up, and
no.
Hubby got stuck down at the bottom of the luge.
Ooh, that's a luge.
Well, we actually were waiting for the Olympic Committee to come and see whether it's going to be suitable for the Boston Winter Olympics.
Susan's got a driveway that's kind of curvy and steep. So.
Well, when the thundering hordes of squirrels approach, we figure that we'll be at an advantage.
You will, yes. You will have the uphill advantage. So let's talk about, we were going to talk about a hearing this week, weren't we?
Oh, my goodness. We had quite a hearing on Thursday, in fact. Senate Bill 116, sponsored by Senate Majority Leader Jeb Bradley, co-sponsored by Senator David Booten and Representative J.R. Holmes.
Well, 1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Well, I tell you what, I really want to thank Senator Bradley. He worked with us for several months getting this language put together and understanding the importance of these small changes that we hope to make to New Hampshire law. The bill is, as the senator introduced it, a modest bill, and you guys know how modest I am. Now. But the bill actually is quite simple. It does a couple of things. It makes optional the license to carry a firearm loaded outside of your house, and to carry that loaded firearm on your person or in your car, or concealed, as you might hear the term used. It would extend the optional license, which is currently 4 years, to 5 years, and it would direct the New Hampshire Department of Public Safety to enter into negotiations with like agencies in other states to extend reciprocity of that license. And you wouldn't believe, out of the hundreds of people that showed up at the hearing in Representatives Hall on Thursday, that only 4 voiced their opposition. And I bet you can't guess which 4.
Well,
a police officer?
There was certainly the chief of Tufton Borough Police Department, who also serves as the president of the New Hampshire Association of Chiefs of Police.
Didn't he kind of embarrass himself?
Well, he was speaking without notes, and people don't always do well speaking without notes. But I'm fearful that perhaps he misunderstood the intent of the bill in a couple of areas. We also had a gentleman who's the head of the licensing division at the Department of Public Safety, who was not a happy camper. We had a darling little old lady from somewhere on the seacoast who was just scared. And then we had an anonymous woman say that the reason that nobody showed up in opposition is because they feared it was a firing squad.
Yeah, they get intimidated. I've heard that in the 90s. They used to use that all the time.
Yeah, well, I find it astonishing that women of all people would want to be to leave their fates in the hands of uniformed officers. I don't get it. If you're a liberated woman, if you believe in equal rights and equal this and equal that, why wouldn't you want to be equal to any threat you might encounter? I don't get it.
Well, you're talking about especially young women, college age, that got upset in a college in Massachusetts just because there was a statue of a man in his underwear, and they were all having nightmares and heebie-jeebies and nervous fits and hysteria. It's like, I am woman, hear me roar until something comes out my face.
Whine.
Yeah, whine.
Okay.
So,
and it's funny you say that.
Actually, if that statue was a Holyoke, Mount Holyoke, they could just say he was a girl.
Well, he could be an emerging transgender.
Mm-hmm, he could.
He could be emerging in his underwear. I have no idea.
What kind of underwear was he wearing?
briefs.
Whose underwear?
Tidy whities.
Was it the boxer briefs, the tidy whities, or those boxers that I wonder why any man wears them? A little bit of history back in first time I went to Reps Hall for the proposed assault weapon ban in 1991. The gun owners had broke all records of attendance in the Reps Hall. In the press named us the Iron Bottom Brigade because it filled Reps Hall, filled the gallery, and standing all around.
Amazing.
And orange and camo everywhere. And the woman who lost a daughter due to a situation, the reason why this bill was up, as the other reps and senators heard how many gun owners were in Reps Hall, they started removing their names. So the chair would be saying, so-and-so removed the name, so-and-so removed the name. And at the end of the day, the only ones left sitting with this woman who lost her child were us.
Amazing.
Okay, they all bailed on her. And it's a fact. And then, so the folks that were running gun owners in New Hampshire at the time went down and talked to her and said, we're not the enemy.
Holy moly.
These they're using you as a pawn for a political move. And now they're all gone.
Yeah, that's what
and here we
happens.
are sitting with you, talking. And that's politics, and that's
politics,
that
true.
type of, we're intimidated. With the gun owners are the most respectful. They never get out of line that I've ever heard.
No.
And you're told society is a polite society.
That's right, and you're told by like gun owners in New Hampshire would always say back then, be respectful, courteous, polite, and just don't lash out as much as you ticked off that you just had to lose a day of work for something that is guaranteed to you in writing.
And, hey, Susan, do you want to hang into the next segment a little bit?
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, because we're going to run out of time in a minute, and I didn't want us to talk over your whole segment, but I did want to say that Kimberly sent something out, and it had, on Twitter, and it had like the New Hampshire Democrat Party and somebody named Granite Grandma or something like that.
Granite Grandma?
And Kimberly was making the point that, a woman should arm herself, that it's a choice, that women can make, and Granite Grandma said pro-choice, only cops should have guns, and I responded, Stalin would agree with you. Yeah. And that I haven't heard back yet.
Well, it's pro-choice only when you want to kill babies.
That's right.
That is correct.
And that's not really pro-choice, that's pro-abortion.
Yes.
It's a whole misnomer.
So, Susan, another minute or two. So a great turnout. I heard, of course, Ian
Underwood
had another great speech.
I
got
to post it again.
A lot of other people stood up. I know there's been some debate about police officers showing up in uniform at a civilian hearing, which of course is a bad thing, but we need to talk about that too. That's another thing we need to blog about. We need to make people aware of why that's.
It happens all the time.
That's the reverse of the intimidation you were talking about before.
Yeah.
Well, they were the only ones, the little old ladies in their T-shirts who were so terrified. The only firearms I saw were the ones on the hips of the law enforcement guys. So maybe they're scared of them too. I don't know.
Well, I have watched over a number of blog sites, and you always hear the anti-gunners saying, well, I'm scared to go out because I don't know who has a gun. Yet, as you were talking about, Guy, those who have concealed licenses or permits, depending what the legal language is in each state, they are, as a group, far more respectful of the laws than any other group. They are more careful with their weapons than even the police.
Firearms.
We don't call them weapons.
Firearms.
They're firearms.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected. But when you come down to it, the people you want to be with the most are those who actually own firearms, because they are the most legally abiding people, period. And they are much less apt to make a bad mistake as well. I mean, you see all the time, cop leaves rifle on top of cop's car, cop shoots self in foot, cop shoot innocent bystanders, and then they talk about us not being able to shoot straight. And I'm not trying to disparage the police. Those are just the stats.
They are indeed the stats. And when we come back from break, if you haven't had a chance to look at them, Emily Sandblade, former state rep, put together some data sets and analyses that kind of blew everybody away.
Well, we'll come back and talk about those. Everybody stay tuned, and maybe we'll even talk about how I am going to rebrand the Granite State Progress as a criminal advocacy group. Stay tuned.
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
"There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change."
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. You're listening to Grok Talk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
Welcome back to Grok Talk here in chilly Concord, New Hampshire. We have Susan Olsen on the line. We have Jane Cormier in studio. Of course, Skip's with me. Mike is stuck in New York, probably listening to the show, maybe not. Who knows? I don't even know what his connectivity situation is like. But
better than ours.
It could be better than ours. We've had some interesting days. And Guy Comtois stayed with us. We had our legislative update. We are currently talking to Susan about SB 116 and the hearing. Welcome back.
Thanks. It was really a terrific day. It was a long day, and we started at 1, promptly on time. And actually, security was asking us to leave by about 5:15. But Senator Carson allowed every single person in the hall an opportunity to speak. So we thank the senator for her patience. It was a long day for everybody, but a good day.
That is a long day.
Yeah. Now, the thing that was probably most disconcerting to me, and perhaps others, I don't know, was what seemed to be a misunderstanding or lack of understanding. I'm not going to call it a deliberate mischaracterization because I don't know that, of federal law, federal firearms laws, and whether or not the state of New Hampshire abides by them. The chief from Tufton Borough on television certainly said that to change the pistol revolver license, which is what we're seeking to do, would put firearms in the hands of 13 and 14-year-olds.
What?
Yeah, he did. And the 1968 Gun Control Act clearly, expressly prohibits not just the sale or transfer, but the possession of a pistol or revolver in the hands of what they call a juvenile. And a juvenile is defined in federal law as anyone under the age of 18. Now, perhaps the chief was conflating the illegal possession with the legal possession. And by legal possession, meaning they can't. So if he's going to say 13 and 14-year-olds are going to be granted pistol and revolver license applications by their local law enforcement, he needs to have a chat with local law enforcement, because if they're doing that, they're violating federal law, not just state law.
Did anybody slap him down for that?
Well, in his testimony, you don't really have the opportunity to jump in the middle of that, although I'm always inclined to do so. He spoke after most of us, and he was interviewed on WMUR saying those things, so we really didn't. But not only did he say that, but he said it again in front of the hearing. We'll have a videotape of all 4.5 hours, I'm hopeful, by the end of the weekend, and we'll take that clip out and examine his remarks closely. We'll transcribe them, and maybe he just misspoke. I'm hoping that that's the case. Other folks, particularly the moms, appear to be concerned that making the license optional would, of course, put firearms in the hands of domestic abusers. Well, again, the 1968 Gun Control Act expressly prohibits the sale, transfer, or possession of pistols and revolvers in the hands of people convicted of misdemeanor domestic abuse or misdemeanor violation of a restraining order. So people need to do their homework. The problem with that is very few people do. And these folks just get up and talk, and people take what they say at face value, and they don't look. So what you're left with, even if they come back and say, "Oh, gee, I was wrong," it doesn't really matter because people don't come back and review. So we are putting together a little bit of a report to talk about both of these issues. They're just wrong, and deliberately trying to frighten people is not a good thing.
And, of course, nobody in the media was going to question him, right?
Well, Adam Sexton seems like a nice kid.
Yes.
But out of the hundreds of people that were there, he gave FaceTime to 2 of 4 opponents. And the one woman he interviewed, he allowed her to be anonymous on camera. What she doesn't know is she's not anonymous. We know who you are. But she's one of the Newcastle Promise folks and Moms Demand Action folks.
Well, I want to tie both you and Guy's segments together because you said not doing the homework. Guy said not really paying attention. They both are one and the same. And I just have to say, for most people who are just trying to live their lives, take care of their families, do their careers, do their other stuff, government is barely a blip on their radar screen. Now, is that a goodness or a badness? I would say if government acted and behaved the way that it was originally intended to, it would be a goodness. 4 or 5 levels down. The problem is we all know, being the news and political junkies and activists that we are, we know bad stuff happens when people aren't looking. And people only take attention to the sound bites. Our attention span is about as long as my ADD kids is.
Well, you're exactly right, Skip. Ostensibly, we elect people, and we entrust the management of government to these people. And we do go about our lives. We're working, we're paying mortgages, we're running kids back and forth to school, we're taking them to the doctor, we're doing all of the things that we're supposed to do to be good people, good parents, and good citizens. And we believe our elected officials are looking out for our best interests. Well, that's just doesn't seem to be the case, increasingly so.
I think part of the problem is that we're not dealing with the same population that we were even 5 years ago. I think a lot of the people that are not paying attention that we're discussing right now, a huge portion of that population is just disgusted and feels like there's no hope. And what does it matter? So
squirrels.
Well, that's true. You get to a point where you go, geez, what difference does it make?
Right.
And we become guilty by default of that. And I would agree with you. But bear in mind, and there's an awful lot of young people who, like those of us who are a bit older, grew up in cultures where there were certain pieces of, I guess, accepted wisdom. Young women today view, forgive me, abortion as just, hey, it's just fact of life. When those of us who are a bit older don't necessarily believe that. But when you're inundated with cultural nonsense, when you don't do your homework, when there are no consequences, when your behavior is not corrected,
right?
How do you deal with that? I don't know. I've been speaking with a young woman for a couple of weeks now who's doing a research paper on women and firearms. And she came to the table with some ideas based on her understanding of culture. And it's been quite a nice process because she's going, I didn't know that. I didn't see that. In fact, she attended the hearing on Thursday. and is I'm going to be teaching her a basic pistol class in a couple of weeks because now she wants to learn.
I think you're exactly right. We have seen a culture that has become unmoored from traditional values and traditional mores. That was one of the unifying things that kept us as a culture together. We have become fragmented. We have become divided. And it's along just a gazillion different lines depending on what the topic or issue is. I tie it back to the progressive mantra, and they've been at this for about 110 years now, where government is only to be looked upon as being benign and acting in our own self, in our best interest. And yet we see time after time in the most progressive administration ever that these bureaucrats are not nonpartisan. They don't have our best interests at heart. No. And no, they don't even follow the standard rule of government, which is the legislation. The legislators make law where they themselves are making law themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And that, I think,
administrative state.
That is correct. I rail about it all the time. But in the culture, since the 60s, and I will say my generation is probably the worst generation ever in America, the boomers, because of this. They are the ones who argued, don't trust anybody over 30 when they were in their 20s. And now they're running the place.
Unless it's us.
Yeah, now they're running the place.
Yeah, we could go. That's deep, though. We could get a lot deeper than.
Well, we could. But you see the movement away from traditional mores built on history and traditions and on facts and a well-educated populace to all I got to do is, Jay Leno's walkabouts, or now on O'Reilly, Jesse Waters, just partial interviews, and you go,
Holy
oh
moly.
my gosh,
Yeah.
these guys are going to be our future leaders.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the future leaders. They're going to be the sheep. There's always people who want to be the leaders who get the scam and end up being elected, and it's a shame.
Isn't it interesting, though, that we're sitting here? Yeah, sheep. There we go. That the truth of the matter is.
Home again?
Yeah, right. You got
go check the sheep.
That if the further we get away from the human condition, whether you're talking about home, mores, whether you're talking about power, right? Because most of this, all this terrible stuff that we're seeing in our government is because of the failing of the human condition. Because we tend to be corruptible, which was the whole point of what our government was supposed to answer, right?
Yeah, but that's the whole thing about progressives. They wish to progress
right
forward. Now, they never mention what it is,
right.
But one of their underlying tenets is that you can be advanced. We can educate you to a higher plane. And they've, except for the most cynical at the very top, I believe, they really do believe that all the stuff that they pass is for our own good, to teach us how to behave better.
Right.
Like we don't have the choice to behave.
One of the things that's automatically included in Obamacare is a lobotomy. You know that, right? There are no co-pays. There's no deductible on that. You just go and get it.
Really?
It's very sad.
Well, that's good. That's not bad, because after you're done at the State House, it's supposed to lobotomy to make you forget everything that
you just went for the...
Yeah.
Yes.
And this, by the way, for the folks at home, this squirrel I invented, if it's near a football that's not inflated at the proper things,
bad.
That right there.
Sorry, we will not allow you to co-opt our squirrel mascot.
Okay.
Do you know what that squirrel is? It's because it's like 1,000 different topics spoken at once.
Yeah, we're being relatively calm and non-intrusive. Yes. We're letting people talk today. At least me.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, you know, one thing that it always gets me. I got to clear up here. People are elected to look out for our best interest. We take an oath to the Constitution. Okay.
What's that?
When you're elected, but you don't take an oath to people's best interest.
Correct.
Okay, because
rule of law.
That's when you have all these groups who believe, that they know better than the Constitution. So your oath is to the Constitution. Like it or hate it.
Follow it.
Fact.
Correct.
Okay. So everything comes in front of you. The first thing you're supposed to do up there is see if this violates the Constitution at all, or props it up.
Senator Daniels, in fact, asked the chief that very question.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, he simply said, how do you square this position with not just the U.S. Constitution, but the New Hampshire Constitution? And it was sort of a humming thing. It was a very awkward moment, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the videotape. But
that should be special.
It was spectacular, and while we think, oh my goodness, he should ask such a question, Guy's exactly right. That's the first question you should ask. Is this completely in accordance with the New Hampshire Constitution and the U.S. Constitution? End of game. Ian Underwood said, either words mean something or they don't.
That's right.
Yes.
And if you go back, and not to say that we don't look out for the best interests of the people, but if you look at the history of the country, when we were abiding by the Constitution,
we do better.
is when this country was just flying.
Yeah.
I mean, when we became the industrial power, when you were allowed to just go, when
Right.
you actually, the American dream was actually alive, which is late 1800s.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk with Jane about some things that happened with our governor and the budget. Susan, you're welcome to stay on the line if you want. Your choice. We'll be right back after
Have you got 30 seconds just to say the bill's going to be exec on Tuesday in Senate Judiciary?
Sure.
Please let your senators know that you support 116 as it is written.
All righty.
Pass.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. The Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Rock Talk.
Welcome back. A little different music.
Not blues.
Not the blues. A little hillbilly music.
It's nice.
Well, there goes half the viewers.
Now, if you listen to the left, this should bring us viewers.
I think my buddy Daryl. Daryl, if you're watching, hi, Daryl.
No. Bluegrass, country mix.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Rockabilly.
Absolutely. Nothing
I
wrong
like
with
that.
Grok Talk.
Still wish I'd finished my banjo lessons.
Thank you, Susan, for spending some time with us. So, Jane,
Yes.
you and I both mentioned this last week. And
It was interesting when I read yours. I was like, oh my God, I was thinking about the same thing in a different vein.
Yeah.
I have to tell you right on here, I just want to say sometimes I read your stuff and it absolutely floors me how well done it is.
oh, thank you.
It happens a couple times a month, really, where I think I go, okay, who wrote this? And I go up. I mean, Skip, you're great too. Don't get me wrong.
I was going to
But-
say,
not that
sorry.
good.
but everything
It's not
else,
that good.
you're only
No,
good
no.
once or twice a month.
No, you know,
Two or
when
three
I say
times a
that,
month, I'm really good.
No. When I say that, you guys, you write all the time. There are times where something is, you just know in your gut that you nailed that sucker. And you can't do it every time because it doesn't work that way.
It
But
doesn't. If we wrote last, we could.
yeah, you're right. Exactly. But this last one that you wrote, I was trying to write mine on the same cycle that you wrote yours, and I thought, oh my God, that was brilliant. I mean, really, you're a brilliant writer.
Well, thank you.
What the heck?
I'm feeling humbled. Well, thanks.
humbled.
What are you doing here?
What am I
are you
doing
doing
here?
here?
I'm
Hey,
working
I want
my
him to
way.
stick around for a long time.
I'm working my way up.
Oh my.
Well, hurry up, man.
Well-
You're getting old.
I am getting
He
old.
isn't. He wrote a great piece about the budget. And I have to tell you, I was so disgusted when I read the first press release that came out with, Hassan's quote and, what is it, Toompi or whatever his name is. I can never get it.
Twombly.
Twombly. His quote that this was the fiscally responsible thing to do to
No,
take...
that was Al Baldessaros. Or not Al.
Please.
Lou D'Alessandro.
Yeah.
No, they've all said it.
He
They
said
were-
it was fiscally responsible in a press release.
Yes, and I've seen it written that our wonderful governor said the same thing. that this is fiscally responsible. You're going to take $7 million out of budgets that have already been, this money's been budgeted to nursing homes in the state, and you're going to force these nursing homes now to downshift those costs. And the counties that have county nursing homes are going to be the ones most hit with this. How dare they?
And
How
this is the
dare they?
downstreaming that the guy was talking about. Was the article is Governor Medicaid Maggie Hassan-Toss's most vulnerable under the budget bus. If you want to go look for it, apparently it's pretty awesome.
It's an awesome one. It is. It is.
So.
But, I just think it's reprehensible that the progressives get to wear the cloak of we care about the people. And yet, again and again, the policies that they put in there hurt the people.
All right,
She
let's say that
cut money for the elderly, downstreaming costs on
Beginning stages of euthanasia.
Yeah, and then
terrible.
Right.
And then she also cut money for the mental health patients, which for people who've been paying attention for years, the Democrats, whenever Republicans are talking about the budget, they always like march some mental health patients in and make a big deal.
Always.
But if you look at the history of the way Democrats have run things, they never fund mental health. They always cut it, they push it, they kick the can down the road, and then the Republicans fund it, and there's no noise. There's nothing happens. Nobody says anything. And then Governor, I care about you.
Yeah, right.
Comes along and cuts it again.
It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
She's doing that, and then your point being she's still funding what?
Well, abortion. But you know what? Everybody kind of glazes over when you start talking about it. But let's really look at what was done in this budget. This budget was put together by clowns. There was a hole in the budget that you could have driven a truck through when we took it up in last year's session, right? I mean, you're going to put income for gambling into a budget.
80 million. Legislation wasn't even passed. 80 million was in the budget.
Wasn't even passed. Correct. But that was income in the budget that she proposed. I mean, think about the level of that. So we had about
We're also going to get $100 million from the sale of unicorn poop.
Yeah, there you go. But $335,000 was what was requested from Health and Human Services in her budget.
Is that valuable?
They're going to sell it right down there at the liquor store.
Yeah.
Really?
right next to the Common Man restaurant.
Where can you buy some unicorns?
Put them on the farm.
Give me that squirrel. All right, so $335,000 was requested by Health and Human Services for family planning clinics, right? Family
abortion,
planning,
yeah.
yes, abortion. It's wonderful, glib, progressive speak, right?
Execute the preborn, okay.
And so what happened is she went and she put into the budget $900,000 into the budget, even though the organization itself asked for $335,000, okay? And because, quote, they were cut in the last budget. So she was refunding that. She was refurbishing that money to go to Planned Parenthood and other, family planning clinics, right? The ironic thing is the Medicaid expansion that happened in this state was giving money right and left to these same clinics. These clinics lost nothing. These clinics had money.
But remember, too, when the Executive Council, when it was all Republicans, denied the contract to Planned Parenthood of New England, who was it but the federal government ambassador to New Hampshire, Jean Shaheen, overrode a lawfully elected Executive Council and decided to disobey.
Narrow's consultant in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Right.
Decided that federalism was to be weakened against an ideology of killing the unborn.
Right.
And they're going to get their money, period.
And they did get their money. That's the irony.
She gave them $5 million.
She subverted the whole system, Jean Shaheen, 2 years ago, right? Came in the back door through Planned Parenthood New England and funded the money. That's one really bad example of what our senators should not be doing.
Coming in the back door is really just a lifestyle choice.
Terrible. Well, whatever it is, it's wrong. But in any case, we can look again and again in this budget and see such tremendous mishandling. And the mishandling here of these funds. So now we're going to cut $7 million from our really the most vulnerable. Is there? I don't know about you guys, but to me, when you're in a nursing home, that's about as vulnerable as we get as human beings. I don't know if that's a situation that any of us are going to feel really good about, right? And what happens to the services of those patients in those homes that have nowhere else to go?
Here's the tie-in. they saw a chance to expand their ideology and their reach into everyday life. Now, go back to what's his name?
Ezekiel.
Emmanuel's. Yeah, Ezekiel.
Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Emmanuel. Right, instead of Rahm Emanuel's.
And Ezekiel.
Rahm Emanuel's brother.
Correct.
Yes. Who basically,
Dr. Death.
yes, who basically said, he was one of the guys behind IPAP,
right.
which is we're going to use a formula to say how much worth are you to society,
right?
And if you're not worth much, we're not going to pay much. Basically, it says screw individuality.
That means all of us in this room.
Yeah, we're gonna take care of the majority, profitable, efficient people of the collective.
Correct.
And what you're seeing right now is the same thing done under different means here in New Hampshire, where Medicaid expansion, formerly people who were paying for their own insurance, are now put on Medicaid. Some people, against their will, they don't want to be on Medicaid.
Of course.
They want to pay their own way.
Right.
The government does not give them that choice anymore.
Absolutely.
So, of course, Maggie Thatcher's... Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher.
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about Maggie.
We're back to England now.
But basically said socialism, proves that when what happens when you run out of other people's money, and that's exactly what's happening. Thank you for Hobby Horse again. New Hampshire state Republicans for making Medicaid expansion a possibility under Obamacare, because they would never have done it if the Obamacare money wasn't offered.
Right.
So they're just saying we're going to further cement that idea that the old, the infirm, the elderly
aren't worth anything.
Are not worth it. The unborn are not worth it.
How that free money causes us to have to cut the budget. That's
wait a minute. You know what the big thing about that is? That we have to bang home every chance we get, and I don't give a care what party you're talking about. One of the major reasons why this budget is in such default were the startup costs for Medicaid expansion here in New Hampshire. The startup costs that our state had to take. So, you know what? Anybody that promoted that, we should be banging, we should be, hitting the bell as hard and fast as we can.
Every time I can.
Terrible, 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 terrible. And all those poor
Maggie
people.
got a letter from a prince in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
She said, that's okay. The New Hampshire taxpayers will pony up the money, and then our ship will come in.
Yeah.
That is the problem, though. They start the program, and just like Obamacare, how do you take it away? We saw certainly Walt Havenstein go from, yes, I'll veto it, to, well, we have to make it work.
Right.
And because...
Awful.
I mean, that's just the way it is. People just don't get the sense of, as you said, when we operated under constitutional values and strictures, we did extremely well. Progressives have now morphed government to what it's only supposed to do to what it should be doing, from a negative set of liberty to a positive, we have to do this.
All right, we're coming back in the next segment for 15 or 20 minutes with Scott Wilson from the Connecticut Citizens Defense League to talk about the Sandy Hook 2 report. Steve, Skip, Guy, and Jane will be right back.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
We are struggling. Rising healthcare costs are part of the problem. Senator Jean Shaheen helped create this mess we're in. As a state senator, her bill chased 21 insurers out of our state. It reduced our choices, raised prices for New Hampshire families, and when Jean Shaheen supported Obamacare, it limited access to 10 of our 26 hospitals, reducing our choices again. Tell Jean Shaheen she's made healthcare worse. Few things are as important as finding the right doctor. And under Obamacare, that's harder than ever. Over a third of our hospitals no longer available. Our doctors no longer covered. Fewer choices, longer drives. No state has been harder hit than us. And even after watching it impact New Hampshire, Congresswoman Ann Custer still supports it. Call Ann Custer. Tell her Obamacare isn't working for New Hampshire.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Grok Talk.
Oh, feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
Grok Talk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
All right, we're Grok Talk. We're back. It's Guy and Jane and Skip and Steve and Scott, who is on the phone but not online yet. We're getting there.
We're going to bring you on right now.
Right now. We have with us, for a slightly shorter segment, because he's got stuff to do, because he's a busy guy, Scott Wilson, the head of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. And we want to talk to Scott about a report that came out from a commission by Governor Daniel Malloy in Connecticut that pretty much wipes out the Second Amendment by the looks of things. Scott, how you doing? Scott, you there? Oh, there we go. Sorry, wrong button. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we're doing as best as we can, Skip. Thanks for having me on today, and we appreciate folks like yourself up in New Hampshire and the rest of the country watching what's going on here in Connecticut, because this is the same type of cookie-cutter platform that they're looking to implement on the rest of the country.
All right, so give us a brief rundown of what this report says. They can go to ccdl.org and read it, but let's talk about the damage.
Well, right, exactly. Just so for your listeners' convenience, essentially, I'm going to go down the list of bullet points that they're looking at, and that includes gun seizures with ex parte temporary restraining orders, also with gun violence restraining orders, and mandatory background checks on the sales and transfers of firearms, including long guns, private sales and sales at gun shows, requiring registration, including a certificate of registration for any firearms, not just so-called assault weapons, but so essentially they want to register every type of firearm from a revolver to a .22 caliber rimfire single shot. Renewal of firearm permits on a regular basis. Our permits to carry here are renewed every 5 years, and we pay $70 to renew them, and they want to up that. They also want to eliminate and ban the sale, possession, and use of any ammunition or magazine feeding devices that can hold excess of 10 rounds. So that would essentially eliminate, if we're interpreting this correctly, which I'm sure we are, any semi-automatic handgun that can accept any magazine. Allow the purchase of ammunition for registered firearms. Evaluate the practice of regulation of prohibition of the sale and purchase of ammunition via the internet. There's a whole litany of things here, and I could read them all if you like, but I think your listeners are getting the idea right now.
Oh yeah, I know. Trigger locks at this point of sale. It's really, really ugly. So how do you guys respond to this?
Well, our response right now is essentially for our members to reach out to their legislators, and even if they're legislators that voted for the big gun law back in 2013, SB 1160, we're asking them to reach out and say, listen, you guys have done enough damage to our rights. None of the stuff that they're calling for here with this proposed recommendations had anything to do with what led to the outcome of what happened in Sandy Hook. And the other thing that needs to be pointed out from our members to their legislators is the fact that there's nothing in here about punishing criminals that buy or sell firearms or use them illegally. There's nothing in there to disincentivize criminal behavior with firearms.
So what's the next step? This is basically just a report. It's a recommendation for legislation, or
It's right. This is a recommendation from the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission, much of which they asked for prior to the 2013 gun ban. They got that was included in the package. So, do they have the clout to get some of this stuff done? They probably have the clout to do that. Some of this, they probably don't have the clout to accomplish all of this because it's such an extreme, drastic pivot from what we've traditionally had here for firearms rights in Connecticut. Still, the idea is for us to preemptively start approaching our legislators. I know that a lot of legislators that did vote for SB 1160 in 2013 have a sort of a buyer's remorse, so I think we'll be able to at least convince some of them to not go along with any of this stuff, or at least most of this stuff that's in this proposal.
So two questions really sort of combined. One, if they pass it, who files a lawsuit against it? And if the other one is, does the gun industry just put its hands up and just completely leave Connecticut?
I would think if this were to pass, then, or most of this were to pass, then yes, absolutely. I really think that this would be the death knell. I think Colt would even pack up their machinery and move to a free state.
That'd be nice.
We'll take them, right?
We'll take them.
This is Skip, and I want to say thanks for coming on the show. There was also a clause that said that if I wanted to come down and purchase a firearms in Connecticut, that I had to register with the state of Connecticut to be able to do that. And I'll be honest with you, I own a couple of Colt firearms. I would like to be able to go down and get a couple others and go right to the headquarters and do that. Would I now be prohibited from doing that?
I'm not really sure about that, Skip. I do know that our main focus right now is preemptively trying to stop some of this proposal, and there's also other separate bills that already actually are in the legislature right now with proposals to try to create more damage to our rights here. There's also some good proposals in, but some of those, again, will probably not really see the light of day.
Now, during our pre-show, we brought this up because I was excited last night when Steve said that you were willing to come on the show. Question is if these were all to pass, is this sufficient to be able to bring a Heller kind of lawsuit that says essentially you have regulated away the Second Amendment? Is anybody looking at that?
Well, right. Well, as you know now, we already do have legal action going on at the appellate level in the federal court system. So, and that case is called Shue v. Malloy. And June Shue is our lead plaintiff. We're a plaintiff. We're fundraising like crazy to pay the lawyers. But I would say that there would be several lawsuits, judging from how I've seen our attorneys operate, because there's really some variations from the types of things, the draconian measures that they're looking to implement. So you'd have to have separate lawsuits. But as far as banning an ammunition feeding device in excess of 10 rounds, that particular one, that would certainly fall under the purview of what we're suing for right now, which is commonly possessed firearms. Then you're going to have to look at ammunition and registered firearms. That would probably be separate lawsuits. So there could be a litany of lawsuits attacking this proposal or what passes from this proposal from a number of different angles.
Yeah. Wouldn't that even include the prohibition of buying ammo through the internet? Isn't that suppression of state boundary commerce?
It's interstate commerce as far as I'm concerned, but of course that's going to it's all going to be interpreted by the courts if that does get challenged in a lawsuit, in a federal lawsuit.
Hey, if people, we're only going to have you for a couple more minutes. I know you have to get going. If people want to donate, how would they do that to help support you guys with these legal costs?
Well, they can visit our website, which is ccdl.us, and we have links right on the homepage there where you can click on and donate and contribute to the cause. All the money we've collected now in the last 2 years plus, we've used towards the litigation in Shue v. Malloy, and we have consolidated roughly $600,000 and paid nearly all of that to the team of attorneys in this last 2 years. So, that's really this is the agenda. This is the agenda that the leftist gun control proponents are looking to impose on us, and they want to be able to use us in Washington State and Maryland as their shining examples of accomplishment.
No? All right. Well, we're going to let you go because I know you have an appointment to get to, and we don't want your wife to get mad at you because of us. We can do that with our own wives.
So, I hope she doesn't listen to this on the podcast.
Oh, no. No. What's her email? We'll send it to her. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks so much for taking a couple minutes. You have a great day, okay? And we'll get the word out for you.
I'd love to come back on again sometime, and thank you guys very much for everything you do up there.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Have a good day. All right, so Jane's moving her headset around. All right, there we go. So that's the situation in Connecticut. Go to, I just pulled the website up, and I was looking at the web address. It's ccdl.us. They got a blog there. You can read the Sandy Hook thing. You can see all the updates about the case and all the different things they have to say. We have an advantage in New Hampshire where our current situation, gun rights-wise, obviously constantly under attack, but we're in a position where we can actually try to improve that, where, down in Connecticut, they're scrambling for their lives down there just to try to hang on to what rights they have, and they need their help. And if the left is successful, it's like the Colorado model. Mm-hmm. They'll just duplicate it everywhere they can. Mm-hmm. Until they get what they want.
They got a lot of money in that. I mean, let's face it, these progressives that are sinking huge chunks of cash
Bloomberg
to change.
And Steyer.
Of course, yeah.
It all comes back to one thing, though. Nobody wants to hear it. It's the people's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Okay?
It is.
The people's fault. It takes a lot to keep a state pro-gun like this. It's a lot of work that nobody sees. Mm-hmm. I was doing it 8 years. You're gone like you're actually elected. You're spending money to give the things that you don't have. And I remember running into the president of the Massachusetts pro-gun group. Okay, he had 7,000 members. He had 1.2 million gun owners. Okay, we had 5,500 members, and we didn't even have 1.2 million people in the state. Mm-hmm. And he used to just I'd talk with him at gun shows, and he'd just marvel at us. And they just sit back and let it happen. And it's the only way government can. Evil only triumphs when good people do nothing. There's no more true statement than that. And I don't know about this gentleman here, but they sat and waited too damn long. Okay, Connecticut's been under attack for a long time.
Yeah, they have.
This isn't brand new.
Well, you look at the demographics politically, and
their legislature's different. It isn't the same. You're right.
Yeah.
Obviously, either our parents or somebody's parents, or maybe it's us or whatever, didn't stand up. Connecticut's been a blue state for a really long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, in order to really find out where they went wrong, we have to go back a really far way to figure that out. But given the fact that they had such a huge gun industry in that state.
Yeah, I know. They go right past it.
And how does the gun industry let it happen? Now you got to talk about what kind of deals were made, who was padding whose pockets, and didn't they see it coming? No, clearly they didn't see it coming. If Colt was just looking the other way because they got tax breaks or whatever, well, guess what? Now they're going to have to move.
What was the insurance company thinking? What was the insurance industry doing during Obamacare?
Yeah.
Taking kickbacks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. The gun industry is no different. Soros, if I'm not mistaken,
George Soros.
Yes, I'm pretty sure about
and his
Remington,
son Jonathan. Yeah.
Marlin.
No, that's an urban myth.
Okay. Well, either way, Marlin's down there. Well, was down there. Winchester was down there. Colt is down there.
In Gun Valley, all those advanced.
We should have a governor.
Machine shops.
I've been saying here for 15 years. Why isn't the New Hampshire governor?
Isn't that crazy?
Connecticut going so left, not going down there going, hey, what do
here.
you need to come to New Hampshire?
Absolutely.
See,
we'll set you right up.
And that's where you go to the ideology.
They didn't change the name of that to Murderers Valley.
Yeah, we ostensibly have the motto "Live Free or Die," and you would think that it would fit right in.
Natural.
But we have seen that since New Hampshire has gone to purple, if not a deep purple at times, people like that, firms like that, have a hesitancy to come here because, just what you're fighting right now in the legislature. Mm-hmm. They're not going to come and do the same thing. They're going to go to a place like Tennessee, Texas, a few other places where, you look at what Magpul did. They said, you really don't think that we have the gumption to get up and move? We're already gone, and they left. And a lot of
it
the
is
ideas.
New Hampshire's roller coaster. I mean, our legislature is like
every
this.
2 years,
Right? They can't
There's
plan
no
on
stability.
that.
Right.
So.
But you look at New York. This past week, I saw the notices on a couple of blog sites that gun stores are shutting down because of the SAFE Act.
Yeah.
When you make it so hard to do business, when
course.
you make it so hard to own, they're going to win. They don't have to do anything to the Constitution. They just make it too hard.
They make the administrative state shut it down, just like Obama was talking about with the coal industry.
Yeah. Now you've heard about Operation Choke Point,
which
is being run by the Department of Justice. This is the
disgusting
shut down industries because of bad reputations.
And if you don't think it's going to work, we used to make steel in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that can be blamed on a number of things, including unions and stuff like that.
But
that overprice
of
them.
course, sure. But I mean, still, it's the same idea. Eventually, people in league with the left, unions, drove the industry out. I mean, they just made it impossible to do business here. Coal's the same thing.
But with the present EPA, do you think we'd even have a vibrant steel industry the size that we are? We couldn't.
How could we?
And that's the problem.
The only thing we're going to be able to make pretty soon around here is Democrat activists.
Right.
We're going to take a
break.
break.
That's what they want.
We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Oh, I don't know why, but I've always loved the idea of summer and sun and all things hot.
Really? I'm guessing you don't have much experience with heat.
Nope.
No experience with heat.
I like to close my eyes.
Not around here.
And imagine what it'd
Not
be
now.
like when summer
21 below wind chill. Let me double check that.
Two
while the
degrees
snowman
at my
sings
house.
to us.
How about
2
cold? Just say
degrees.
cold.
5 degrees minus 21 feels.
It's gone past brisk.
Cold.
You know, most of my coworkers in what I do are out of San Diego. Okay? And most of my customers think I'm out of San Diego. I'm merely attached. So I tell them I'm here in New Hampshire, and they're going, oh, it must be kind of cold there. I said, yeah, it's 40 degrees, but, you know, I'm still outside in a T-shirt at times.
And they probably think you're crazy.
I've been dealing with some of these folks for years. They already know.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. It's getting cold in Connecticut for gun rights.
You know what? I was. We have time here. Are we on?
We got another 10 minutes maybe. Then we go into the next segment.
Well, so back in the 90s, I'm working at this jewelry. We used to remodel jewelry stores, right? K Jewelers, Belton Jewelers. And the smaller remodels would do Sunday nights because mall closed early.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the mall, and all the jewelry was in Tupperware containers out in the general. They don't have safes big enough to hold their jewelry. So here we are remodeling, the radio's on. And that day there was a drive-by shooting in Connecticut. And there's 2 store managers there. They were working along, and it comes on the radio. Governor Weicker is going to support legislation that would ban carrying concealed weapons. And the 2 store managers, college kids, right, from Connecticut. So that's a good idea. That's a good idea. They should stop that because the drive-by shooting was down the street. I said. So I go up to them. I said, well, let's see if we can go over the scenario a little bit. That's hypothetically myself and my buddy are going to go do a drive-by shooting. So we're headed out of the apartment, the house, whatever. We're headed to the car. You know, to drive-by shooting, you need a car. So we're headed to the car. And we're talking on the way down, and I look at my buddy and say to him, "Do you got your license to carry?" And he says to me, "Well, no, I thought you had yours." I said, "No, man, I don't have my license to carry." Well, We're not going to be able to just do this drive-by shooting now, man. Neither one of us can legally put these guns under our coats.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It doesn't make any
Plus,
sense.
don't even talk about the fact that they have all their jewelry in Tupperware containers, right? And they can't conceal carry in their business.
Heck with that. How big is your toolbox?
Well, that's why I was always hired to do New England, because I was the only one contractor that you could trust to just have his guys out there with the Tupperware containers in the common area of the mall, because we're doing rugs, so we had to take everything out of the store into the common area of the mall and pull the rugs, and then have somebody put the rugs down. Consular Dave Wheeler would come in and do the rugs for us. Well, he's senator then.
Yeah.
And then we put the jewelry things back in, and then they'd stock them back up. Well, the saves are just this big for the $28,000, $30,000, unmounted diamonds, but all the other stuff's in Tupperware. And if you keep trying, if you go around a shopping mall, I don't know if it's changed, and you keep pulling doors, sooner or later somebody around that shopping mall they forgot to lock the
Guy,
damn
you're not
door.
supposed to give anybody ideas here. Okay.
No, it's just the truth. Okay.
I have an interesting
and it's
question.
Yes.
This is going back to the hearing. I've been thinking about this when Susan was talking. I was thinking about it, and the state Supreme Court ruled that you could carry a concealed weapon, unarmed, a concealed firearm, unloaded, right, and then just take it out, load it, and go, right? So I mean that's not constitutional carry. We know that's not constitutional carry.
Right.
But the difference between what this legislation asks and what is already perfectly legal amounts to this.
Right.
Rack it and shoot.
If it's concealed. If it's on your hip, it can already be loaded.
The minute but I mean, and that's true, and that's also true. You can carry not concealed, but you can conceal an unloaded weapon.
Firearm.
A firearm. You can conceal an unloaded firearm.
There you go.
And ammunition on your person as long as they're not together. And the difference is really small.
Actually, it goes even closer than that. Wasn't there a case here in New Hampshire, and it had to do with fish and game? You're not supposed to have your firearm, your long gun, loaded in your trunk.
Yeah.
Or leaning against your vehicle.
That's right.
That's been like that for a
That
number
was
of years.
crazy
But
stuff.
What was decided is that just because the magazine may be in, if the
Chamber's
round
not
is not in the
chamber,
you do not have a loaded gun.
Okay, interesting. I did not
But
know
that's
that.
still all wrong, and that's a long story about
Right, it is.
leaning against the vehicle. That's been like that since I've been a kid.
How
Come out of
crazy
the
is
woods, and my
that?
father would say, "Don't lean it on the vehicle, lean it on a tree." It goes back to these.
What is that?
It goes
Why?
back to poaching in the 30s.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean
And-
poaching?
Wow.
Back when the railroads ran New Hampshire.
Illegally killing.
Yeah.
No, I know what poaching is, but what does that got to do with it being on the car? Leaning on the car?
Because you'd be leaning across your hood shooting, leaning across the roof, steadying it to take a long shot.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't. It was in the.
No, I mean, I often wondered how they came up with that was leaning against the car and like where does that come from?
It's stupid,
illogical.
nanny state, administrative state lunatics.
And this is where we are headed, because it should be a case, if you're just leaning it up against the car, it should be okay. It's like you said, if you're caught on the hood or on the bed of the pickup or whatever, and you're aiming at something dead to rights, that should be wrong. But just to keep your
what are they
firearm
afraid it's
out of
going to
the mud.
fall and shoot or something? I mean,
No,
what is the logic between
It is.
I can't
Keep
find
it away from the vehicle.
Yeah.
Why?
So that it just makes it easier for them to crack down on poaching. Widen the law, make it easier to grab you.
Okay.
Okay. Now I could have a 12-inch. I could have Wyatt Earp's pistol in a holster sticking out down by my knee,
Yeah.
loaded.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Holy moly.
Going in with a flashlight at night. Okay. But if I'm carrying a rifle going in with a flashlight at night, you'll get grabbed.
Yep. Can't do that. So
It's-
it's
yeah.
crazy.
I find it crazy.
Well, it comes down to common sense, internal governance. You know, the little guy on your shoulder saying, "Don't do that."
Why not?
Versus the progressive, we have to have a law for everything because
Wow.
we don't trust that you have this guy.
Well, that's
so
how
we will do it
ended up with all
externally.
those crazy knife laws that they had to fix because they were just ridiculous. I mean, it's the same situation, really. I mean, so-and-so wants this, so-and-so wants this. You got all these state agencies. Everybody says, well, we'll help them out with their little gun law over there, and we'll help them out. And then everybody lines them all up together and goes, what the freak is this? You know, there's no continuity at all.
What happened to the days when fines were a deterrent from bad behavior? It may become revenue raising now. Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of times, like, whoa, this law, if we didn't have that, think of the fines we wouldn't hand out and the revenue we would lose.
Why wouldn't the head of the chiefs of police be against not collecting revenue on licenses? That revenue goes away. If you don't have to have a license, it's a fiscal issue for them, you know.
There was a state trooper in uniform yesterday, and I went in to sign in favor of the Thursday, whatever day it was.
Thursday, yeah.
And I caught the last part. He was getting into the revenue aspects of constitutional carry. So, again, there's a bill in for fishing game.
Yes, I read that.
my committee chair, by the way, I now know what it's like hanging around with you guys to be that poor kid in the corner of a cafeteria eating his bologna sandwich.
I see. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. If I don't get certain emails for certain meetings.
Oh yes.
So
yeah.
So the chair of Fish and Game put in a bill with Goldie, the Democrat Jeff Gold, to allow the commissioner of Fish and Game to set fees.
Oh
No.
my.
See, this is the
Wow.
it goes back to what you said, the administrative state. I haven't finished reading the Post yet, but Mike Lee supposedly has a stack of paperwork about this high, a couple inches, of all the actual law that was passed by the Senate last year. He has a pile of paper 10 feet high of all the regulations passed by the federal government.
Yep. That's what's
which
killing
have
us.
the force of law. And a lot of them have to do with the criminalization of certain behaviors, where it's not just a fine, but you will go to jail for merely going against a regulation that has not been passed by our legislators.
Right. That's how they get around it.
Yes. And this is the problem. And, right now they've got Loretta Lynch, who is supposed to be the follow-on to Eric Holder.
I mean, she's terrible. How anybody could watch those hearings and come out with anything but what a big mistake. I mean, illogic. Oh my God, she's terrible.
Well, I did. Steve
She'll
put
fit
up
right in then.
Yeah, Steve put.
Perfect for the Obama administration.
Yeah. Well, Steve put up a post of the Ted Cruz, interviewing
Was
her.
great.
And then I put something by Senator Vitter that she's perfectly okay with bureaucrats overruling the legislators.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the essence of
Absolutely.
the administrative state. And to think that Kelly Ayotte, a former attorney general, I know, we all know who she is, and we know what's going to happen. But one would think, going back to what you said, and we've said it here before, we all have to be mindful of the Constitution. Representative DeSimone, who is a Republican, said, well, I only look at the Constitution as a guideline.
Yeah.
That's on a page that I've got.
Is that what's her name? Is it
DeSimone? Uh-oh.
I got a
There's
DeSimone
the hook.
to make me think.
There's the music hook.
All right.
I'll finish
Well,
it later.
we're going into the final segment. And,
Squirrels!
Who knows? Yeah, we
I'll
we
finish
can
it.
talk about just about anything.
Football
Who knows?
inflation detectors now for $9.95. But wait, order now.
All right, we'll
And
be
we'll
right
send
back.
you the second one
We'll
free.
be right back. We'll be right back.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Jean Shaheen and her allies are making false claims about her record on veterans. The truth? Shaheen refused to meet with veterans pushing for reform. She wasn't on the committee that wrote the reform legislation and refused to co-sponsor important VA reforms in the VA Management Accountability Act until after the VA scandal broke. When our veterans needed her, Jean Shaheen was AWOL. Tell Jean Shaheen to stop distorting the truth and fix the VA.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning. The the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Rock Talk.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Rock Talk.
Welcome back. Thanks again to Scott Wilson from the CCDL for taking 10 minutes out of his busy morning to give us a quick update on their situation down there with the Sandy Hook report. And, of course, Jane Cormier is still with us. Guy Comtois was in, and we did our little legislative update. We spent a lot of time talking with guns. Susan Olsen called us, and we're still here. Somebody's downstairs banging on something. But that doesn't matter, because we're still Grok Talk, and we're still brought to you by the Coalition.
They're putting the
Hampshire
bugs.
Tax-
They have to the new bugs. You got.
I was thinking he might have some C4 down there or something. You know,
singles and
Surveillance
doubles.
system.
That'd be okay.
They're not smart enough to put them up at night when nobody's here. They come during the day.
actually over the flag store and hair biz, and so I think we're pretty safe.
Can somebody remind me what I was saying before the break?
You were saying how wonderful Jane and I are.
No.
Wasn't he, Jane?
No, you were talking about DeSimone. And
oh,
about
yes,
how,
the Constitution.
Yes.
For her, the Constitution is only a guideline. And, you know, this is the thing. We have gotten to the point where even our elected leaders despise the Constitution, the fundamental law here in the United States and in the state of New Hampshire. And certainly the progressives have been trying to do that for years. And it's one of those deals where all of us should be mindful of the Constitution. And too many people say, well, it's only the courts that have to decide that.
Yeah.
We'll just do whatever we want. You know, these agencies, political agencies, the departments in the state or the federal government say, well, we're just going to do it until we're told that we can't do it.
Right.
The legislators do the same thing. We'll just do it until it's decided by the court that it can't be. There's always that fail-safe. And, you know, that's how we got Obamacare in a lot of cases, that, you know, people depended on the judiciary. You lost your windscreen, by the way. It's somewhere down on the floor probably. And yet it really is a case where we all have to be that person that says, we are the ones responsible for our own freedom. We can't rely on a George Washington or a James Madison or a Ronald Reagan or any other number of folks to be able to do that for us. We have to be that person.
Did you want to sit over here?
Huh?
Did you want to sit over here?
Well, you were busy
pushing on my button,
doing stuff, and she was adjusting her headset.
I found it.
What's up with the buttons, man? Just stay away from the buttons. Yeah.
He's-
No, you're right, and I don't like to be. I'm actually really optimistic about things, but I'm very pessimistic about the outlook that I don't know what it takes to get people rattled. I really don't know how much it takes. I think
they've got to lose everything.
it's just like cancer, right?
Black Lives Matter.
Guy across the street, your neighbor gets cancer. It's like, oh man, my God! And some relative gets cancer. Wow! And all of a sudden, somebody in your family gets cancer. Boom! It's home.
Right.
Okay? They're violating rights all around people.
Right.
And as long as it's not touching me, wait a minute. They haven't said anything about us yet. Don't say nothing. I don't know. I grew up, my parents, you can't beat City Hall. Well, first thing I tried to do when I got older was beat City. You can beat City Hall. You can beat City Hall. You have the Constitution behind you.
They have exerted such inertia to let the folks believe that there is no fighting back. You've got to accept these edicts that we're putting forth. And I know that people talk about uninformed, and that is a portion of the population. But with the education that's been going on since 1950 and the progressive mindset that's educated now into our kids, we've got a different set of problems that we have to address. And the inertia thing, from just a little bit of campaigning that I've done in, 4 years, right? The inertia is the thing that I keep seeing at doors all the time. It doesn't matter. You can't beat them. It's corrupt. Everybody knows it's corrupt.
We're all crooks.
And
all of us that run for office are crooks.
Well, you know what? The truth is, the truth is most, not all, but most of government isn't that true? Most of government, I believe, is corrupt because human beings are corruptible, right? But we've missed the message that the republic only works when we're engaged as a population, and we're not engaged.
No, and that's why they fear homeschoolers so much.
Yeah, they sure do.
I'll tell you, my kids, it's like, all right, I'm a firm believer. I was a firm believer. My wife is an accountant, so she's the math, all this. This is my ideology. If you can read, you can learn the rest of that stuff later. What you're going to learn right now is what freedom's all about, okay? And how you're going to hold on to this place.
Well, they hate you.
Okay?
Yeah.
And
you're seeing that over and over again, that a lot of people, it used to be just for religious reasons why people would homeschool. But people are seeing what's going on. My hometown's the same way. Oh, by the way, I have signed up to run for school board.
Really? Yay!
Yep.
They'll love you.
Oh, yeah.
You'll never make it.
This is
I may not.
This is the end of school choice week, too, by the way.
But here's the deal. There's 4 liberals.
No.
And I'm the only
really?
conservative.
For school board?
Yeah. Why doesn't Billy Bear go out for school board?
I don't know, but I did because of the Billy
Good
Bear
for you.
Incident. And Kurt Weber, who I got the chance to school on, he tried to school Billy Bear after the incident about civility and the freedom of speech.
Yes.
And I came right back at them twice in that meeting. And I'll tell you, Kurt Weber's knee was going like a jackhammer.
Yeah, I bet.
And I basically, I don't know what my chances are of
well, you have
winning.
to try, right? Good for you.
And that comes back to, I'm going to be my George Washington. I am going to be my own Ronald Reagan. We all have to start saying, if not me, who else?
Absolutely.
And I can't do all this blogging and all this spouting of hot air if I'm not willing to go and do it myself. So I am.
It's got to be, when you get involved in politics and you're going to realize how bad off we really are, you're going to want to try to save it all. Grab one, go slow and steady, because you will burn out. I watch people in the 90s over and over and over again burn out within a year and a half. And to say, there's no use. You got to go slow and steady. You just got to keep pecking, because that's how they killed us. Okay, they didn't start this stuff.
Of course.
They didn't start this in 1992 when Bill Clinton got elected.
Started in little pieces.
Okay. In fact, I would rather have Clinton than Daddy Bush any day of the week. He was worse. He was just, he just set the whole thing up for us to just, completely disintegrate after Ronald Reagan in his later years. Young Ronald Reagan, the Ronald Reagan that spoke at the 1964 Republican Convention would have been sweet. But nonetheless, it was a good thing.
And that's where it goes back to baseball. George Washington, James Madison, Ronald Reagan, a few others, always hit home runs, it seemed. That's how we view them. They were home run hitters. Yeah. I keep saying we may not be as good as they are, but we can hit our own singles. We can hit our doubles on occasion.
And there were a lot of misses in there too.
There were.
Those poor guys, what they went through. Anybody, if you have any faith whatsoever, and you look at the history of the forming of this country, there was absolutely a divine presence, because they were so, and are still, so ahead of even where we are today.
Madison said his pen was under divine guidance. And by the way, Madison pretty much single-handedly wrote the Constitution, and he did single-handedly write the Bill of Rights.
But wasn't he a bigger government guy?
He disagreed with Bill of Rights. He didn't think we needed them.
Right.
Patrick Henry, God bless him, if he didn't put up such a stink, would already
we
be
wouldn't
disarmed.
have had him. Yeah.
And remember, all of these folks, even though they're depicted as being rather old, they were in their 30s during the American Revolution.
Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence.
I look at that. Some of my stuff is pretty good, but I'm now in my latter part of 50s, and I'm going, No way. I can't do that.
I'm good. Apparently, I'm good 2 or 3 times a month.
Oh,
But
stop.
you got to remember back. Have you watched the John Adams
Yes.
miniseries?
Was it a good one?
Yes.
Okay.
It was good.
It was very good. It made him. I don't think he yelled and went off like that as much. But in the end, the day that the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, Adams and Jefferson died 15 minutes.
Isn't
apart.
that amazing?
The last two.
Yes.
The last two. You know what I mean?
15 minutes.
I
Wow.
watched the 7th one like 5 times.
Well, we have
Just
to,
don't, man, I
we
wish I
have
was
to, we have
back
to
there.
diverge
Really?
to a
I
much
gotta watch
lesser being as we quickly squeeze in our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot of the week. I'm going to give it to this young lady who said these words: "The presence of concealed guns increases the risk that an everyday disagreement will escalate into shootouts."
Oh, is that Sandra?
Sandra Fruit
Sandra.
Loops Hawkins.
Mamma
Sandra
mia,
Fruit
God
Loops
bless her.
Hawkins.
Well, when we were doing Stand Your Ground in 2012, there was going to be the Hannafords, always Hannafords parking lot come up. There was going to be a shootout, and you were waiting for the Clint Eastwood. You would think they'd put speakers up on the lights out there, when you're coming out, and that's what they use. It's going to be shootouts. I'm going to be pushing a carriage to my car. I'll be legally armed. But that person with the knife, he's just trying to save his own life. You didn't see the other person with the knife, and you're going to shoot the wrong guy with the knife. And it was all
crazy.
Oh, yeah, across the parking lot.
Oh, my goodness.
Like we're all,
Marksman.
can drop on, with
yeah.
45. Nervous as hell, right?
Yep.
Because if you're going to bring yourself to a point where you're going to shoot somebody,
yeah.
you're going to be vibrating around. All your vitals are going to be screaming,
Yeah.
and you're going to have a hard time because when a duck or a deer comes by you, okay, you
Yeah.
get all shaky, and sometimes you miss because of the shake, because of the excitement. Never mind a human being, okay? It's
Yeah.
just...
The thing is, in each of their words when they do this, they show the contempt and the conceit that they have towards everybody else.
Yep.
They're good, but nobody else is. They can make decisions for others, but you are not capable of making them for yourself.
Right. They're
They don't-
enlightened.
That's the progressive. That was the word I was struggling to get to earlier. Progressives wish to enlighten the rest of
Right.
us. And the problem is they're no more enlightened than any of us. They just have a hubris around them.
May I read from a world-renowned...
Actually, let's hold
a
that
world-renowned progressive?
Yes,
well,
you
hold that up. Let me hold on.
Which one? There's so many.
Well, this one made his
hold that sign up.
1930s.
You got her?
Would you like to read what this progressive said in 1930s?
I get to read that one.
Well, I'll read it if you don't want to.
You can read it. I just bad karma.
Because that man is one of
I gotta
the
get
most
this.
despised in the whole...
Absolutely, and
Just-
rightly so.
Even through film, you can feel his darkness.
Yes.
Adolf Hitler.
Yes.
Yep.
I can almost read that from here. The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so.
1938.
That's why Xandra doesn't want us to have firearms.
We can go to 1993 when
could.
we have Chuck Schumer. And he says, we're here to tell the NRA their nightmare is true. We're going to hammer guns on the anvil of relentless legislative strategy. We're going to beat guns into submission. 1993.
How about, I'll do 1788. Patrick Henry. Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately...
excuse me. Point to him, please, because I'm doing it backwards here.
Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry.
Yeah.
The thing we were all taught in grade school. I have but one
They don't
life
teach
to
it
give for
anymore.
my country. I have not yet begun to fight. All of these things that John Paul Jones and all of it.
Yeah, well, they weren't really smart people, and they were invaders. They're teaching the anti-American religion these days. It's really sad.
Would somebody read the Janet Reno one, please?
Janet Reno, gun registration is not enough. Mamma mia.
Well, it is just a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And how about Mr. Metzenbaum, Senator Metzenbaum?
Metzelbaum, bottom right, Jane.
Oh, Howard Metzenbaum. I don't care about crime. I just want to get the guns. 1994.
He was out of Ohio. And Ohio's a very pro-gun state. We can never figure out why he kept getting reelected.
And then
That is a good question.
And then we have, not on that little signboard, for which I want to say thank you for bringing that in, but then we have Diane Feingold, who, Feinstein, who had her own concealed permit out of California, one of the very few that did. And she has waged her entire career to get rid of all guns out of everybody's hands.
Of course.
And it goes back to the idea that they can enlighten the rest of us to behave civilly and non-violently. As you said, Jane, earlier, we are all fallen. Criminals tend to be more fallen than the rest of us. And our Constitution was meant for virtuous people. The problem is criminals are not a virtuous people. They understood, the folks on the left-hand side of that picture, understood that we needed to be able to defend ourselves, not just for self-defense against those criminals. They just fought a revolution against a tyrannical government. And I keep thinking to myself, how much more tyrannical, in a lot of ways, of how we are supposed to live our lives is our present day, and I would say in a lot of cases, tyrannical government.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's no doubt
Tyranny
tyrannical.
does not come, as Dan Itz's signature on his emails comes across. Tyranny does not always come just at the end of a barrel, but by the point of a pen. And I'm paraphrasing that just a little bit.
Even more so.
And I tell people, go ahead, you tell me how many areas of life does government not insert itself into your behavior, in the things that you buy and the things that you can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere.
Yep.
I really can't think of a single area.
Let me read one more for you. This is one of my favorites. Thomas Jefferson. And if you watch that John Adams thing, you're going to see how Jefferson and Adams started butting heads.
Yeah. Big time.
Adams was the Alien Sedition Act and stuff like that. But Thomas Jefferson said, "In what country can preserve its liberties? If its rulers are not warned from time to time that the people preserve the spirit of resistance, let them take arms. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." And to finish that off, he said, it's its natural manure.
Wow.
Okay.
I didn't know that line was in there. Okay.
Yes.
Natural manure. We're going to take 60 seconds. About 60 seconds. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Welcome back. It is Grok Talk. CNHT. Thanks for the space. Somebody needs to come fix your router. There is no wireless or wired connection on the CNHT network today at the office. We're making do with other things. So a couple minutes left in the show. We want to squeeze a few more things in real quick. I wanted to remind people that we have a citizens journalism project inspired by that, taken up by the nice folks at Red Maryland, whom we spoke with last week. We would like you to, and this is to people who are already going to meetings. They show up at committee meetings, they show up at school board meetings, they show up at budget meetings, they check out what their selectmen are doing. We just want you to send us a little letter, article, short message every now and again, and we'll include you on the Grok Watch news desk, and you can report from your town. And we'll post it up for you.
I I should create an email, grockwatch@grockwatch.com.
We have one already.
We do? I did that a while ago, didn't
Back a while ago, and we created Grockwatch without being sure what we were going to do with it. So you can email grockwatch@granitegrok.com if you're interested, and we'll tell you what else you need to do after that. And we have, 235 towns in the state, 10 counties.
Yeah.
We want everybody. That's not too many. I mean, if you have news to report from your town, we'd like to know about it. And on a related note, Stephen Forster is going to have his Supreme Court case heard on February 19th over the thing going on there in Henniker where they wouldn't let him perform weddings at his Christmas tree farm.
Right.
And so he's taking that to the court. And
that's going to the Supreme Court?
I
wanted to get in, when I was on the Environmental Agricultural Committee, I wanted to do something about that, but it's difficult because it's the state not telling the town. It's a difficult one to thread because you want to promote commerce, but at the same time, you know what I mean.
The statutes seem pretty clear.
It is. I went to the planning board because I want to do weddings on my farm. Like, well, you have to do change of use. Well, no, I'm still going to be growing vegetables, and we're still going to have our pasture-raised pork. By the way, we have pasture-raised pork with no antibiotics and no growth hormones in it. No nothing. And so we're going to go back and forth on this.
If you'd like to record a commercial, we can do that for you.
Okay, I will. But we're going to be going back and forth on this change of use thing because they're just like, wow, it says it's got to be change of use. So this guy wants to hold on to the piece of land because obviously it's very difficult with taxes, and he wants to have weddings. Okay, and we're not talking
the
1970s weddings where the pickup trucks full of beer.
No,
okay?
It's a zoning. And the zoning board in Henniker wants his land. They just don't want him to have it.
No.
It's really what it comes down to.
How bad is that?
The people on that board are out to run him out and take his land. That's really what it is. He might as well be the fat, rich cattle guy who's running his cattle across the homesteaders because he doesn't want them there.
So this is at the Superior Court.
It's going to State Supreme Court. February 19th is the day that they hear the case.
And do we know what time?
He might have told me that. Let me look.
He should win.
He should.
They usually win.
He should because it's not.
And that's the problem because.
Right.
You look at the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The word happiness was originally pursuit of private property.
Yes.
The rule of private property. And you look at today's zoning and everything else like that, and you go, how much do I really own my land? Now, forget about the mortgage, the bank, and the taxes and all of that stuff. But the use of your own land. How much, again, do you get to decide what you can do?
And we need to give Stephen Forster credit because the guy's 71 years old. He could have just said, screw it. I'm only going to be alive for 10 or 20 more years or whatever.
Right.
I could just sell it all and go move to Florida. And he emailed me yesterday. He said, I'm sticking this out. I'm running this through. He says, because there's farms all over this state, and if I don't win, they're going to walk all over.
I hope because like I said, we talked about it. I'm thinking, I talked to another rep saying, geez, what can we do about this one to help this situation out?
Maybe you guys should have I think you should have something at the State House and have some reps that are supporting of this guy before this happens, the 219. And just say that this is solidarity. We're standing here as New Hampshire state representatives to say we support private property rights here in this gentleman.
We support the law as written.
Yeah.
Has he emailed you updates on actually how this is actually, what transpired to get up to this point?
I don't have all that.
If I could get some of that, I will see if I could schedule a press conference, small one in LOB.
I'm sure he'd provide it.
Small one in LOB because I am all in favor of this because it is not easy selling your pasture-raised products because it's so expensive because they take the actual time to grow the animal. Plus you're not doing Arnold to them, where they're just like overnight. So you're growing your meat on a normal way, and you need to supplement your income to hold on to that piece of property.
Yeah, my pigs, they have great big pecs.
3 or 4 month weddings, if you could have 8 of them, it could put you over the top.
Guy, you should support this.
You put houses on it. And I tell people, either way, if this farm makes it, I'm going to do okay. If it doesn't make it, these 50 houses, whoever puts here is going to do okay, and I'm going to even do better. So, you should want people with large pieces of land to keep it a large
They
piece
don't.
of land.
The powers that be want those
the powers
things
that be,
gone.
the townspeople, like Windham, okay, there's a church down there my friend attends. They had bought a piece of property on one side of the road, and they were getting a church all set up. The pastor, the elderly woman who owned the 100 acres across the street, beautiful land, wasn't doing well. So this pastor just stopped over her house one day, and he said, would you mind if I prayed with you? And she said, no, come on in. So he spent some time with her and prayed with her, and he left, didn't give it another thought. Woman passes away. Period after that, all of a sudden he gets notified. She left him the whole 100 acres, the church.
Wow.
Okay? The town wouldn't give him the non-tax status.
No.
He finally had to go and get right up to the point where the lawyers were poised to hop until they granted it to him because they wanted the land.
Of course. Oh, my God. That is beyond the pale.
Yeah, that's Windham, and that was the last year.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the thing.
You know, that's a story right there
It is.
because
They're all
protecting the farm heritage in this state, I mean, they want to accumulate so many, quote, conservative lands that if you saw a picture, Representative Stephen Holmes, and we were in R&D, Resources, Recreation Development, last year when I was on that committee, he brought in a picture that was color-coded of the amount of land in New Hampshire that is in conservation right now. And you would fall off your chairs.
Could you get that for us?
I'll have to try to find it.
It'll be easy to get, though. It should be easy because Fish and Game owns land, and then when they come in, well, Fish and Game owns that. No. This is where you start. This is all, if they had an EKG machine on me in committee. No, the people own the land. Okay.
No, they believe they own
Fish
the
and
land.
Game, DES.
You would not believe it.
Oh God, why am I forgetting? It's about.
It's
DOT.
There's a bunch. There's huge, and federal. Don't forget the federal land. When you looked at this, the green was what was not owned, and red, if I'm not mistaken, in the color scan, what was owned, already attached, and it was. I was like.
And they'll never go private again.
That can't be true. And yet every little county conservation, every community conservation is getting big bucks from other organizations that are giving them money.
L-Chip?
That's one of them, right? But and they will work together to try to pull that land away from that community, who then loses the tax base of that land, right? And then they say, oh, well, we'll let you do. And many times this has happened. Wolfboro recently lost a large tract of land. We're going to let you cross-country ski on that land. Well, guess what happened? You know, that evidently it was too hard to build the trails or whatever. And 2 years ago, when I was sitting in Alton fighting the Conservation Committee, giving their land, to this entity to take it off the tax rolls and to just wrap it up. I forget the entity, but their goal was to get 1 million acres in 10 years, and they did. And we were assisting them getting that 1 million acres. But it's a huge scam, and people are believing that conservation's good because, but that's not the modus operandi for these people that are attaching this land. It's to get it away from the folks.
Steve, it comes up to your favorite question. When
What's
is
for
enough?
lunch?
Never enough. What's for lunch? That is one of my favorite questions. Hopefully there's a beer there, too.
But it is, when is enough?
It's never enough. It's never
another
enough.
way they do it, too, and I don't know if
Never
they're still
enough.
doing it, but in the 90s, if you're elderly, I know a gentleman who was approached, 300 acres in Farmington, had the house, wasn't
Real quick,
doing
you
too
got
good.
about 10 seconds.
You got $350,000, we'll pay you.
Yep.
You put it in the bank, you stay till you die, we take it.
Yep, they still are absolutely doing that.
Well, we need an executive order. Actually, we
Okay.
need a governor and a legislature.
You got one, I'll sign it. Doesn't mean anything.
About as much force as the Constitution these days, right? Thanks so much, everybody, for coming in. We have next week off, but we'll be back 2 weeks after. Yeah. Hey, training. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, baby.
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jean Shaheen said,
Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results.
how can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change.
Jean Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpack.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All of the music on this program comes to us through Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of CNHT, GraniteRock.com, or anyone else for that matter.
Rock Talk.